Zendikar Rising Spoilers continue. It is Monday, September 7th. That's Labor Day. And we've got some, I'm going to say it again, spicy cards to talk about.
That's right. We got to get through all of these Zendikar Rising spoilers.
Now, I like dollars, I like diamonds, I like stunning, I like shining.
That way we can get to whatever set is coming out the week after Zendikar is released.
We're going to cover the Zendikar Rising spoilers from today.
The video starts right now.
Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below.
Hello and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. We are going to talk about the Monday holidays. Previews from Zendikar Rising. But first, if you like the video by the end of it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out.
It's the best way to support the channel. By just clicking a button.
Let's jump into this. We got so many cards to talk about. It's crazy. So yesterday, whatever day it is, we left off with Stonework Pack Beast, so let's pick up right here. Salundi Visions, a 1 blue, 2 other instant. Look at the top 6, reveal an instant or sorcery, put it on your hand, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. Salundi Isle on the other side enters the battlefield tap. Jake, we get like a 2 mana cost version of this that becomes a 1 or 2 of in constructed decks and standard after it comes out. Do you think that this one's got any viability at 3 mana, but it does have the land on the back, which I guess is what you're paying the tax for? Not feeling it?
It's tough, but, instant speed, it's essentially like a forbidden alchemy, right?
Right.
So it's like instant or sorcery into your hand. I think it could be like a 1 or a 2 of.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
you're saying. And the fact that, early on, if you're down a land, played as the land side tapped, you'll be a little bit behind. But I am really interested to see how the versatility on these cards, I know I've said that before, how that's going to affect different formats moving forward.
Following that, we've got a flashing, flying 3/3 for 5 for limited. Card. Right, Skyclave Shadowcat, 4 cost 3/3. You can pay 2 to sack a creature to put a +1/+1 on it. So if something's getting targeted, you can put that counter, that power toughness onto the Shadowcat. And whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, so Skyclave Shadowcat if you've sacrificed something to it. Draw a card. Good limited uncommon.
Yeah, I think it's a good limited uncommon. Maybe it could find its way into a constructed deck as like a 1 of or a 2 of, but I would be surprised. Yeah. It is really, really good and limited, though. If you have that mana, being able to sacrifice in response to removal, get in with your threat, inevitably, they're just gonna, if they're gonna let it go, let it keep going. Let it keep smashing through, but if they do go to remove it, sacrifice it in response. Yeah,
I think it's a little mana intensive for constructed when you've got Woe Strider at 3 mana, letting you sack things at instant speed for no cost. I think is really what the sack decks want. Moss Pit Skeletons, a green and a black for a 2/2 with a kicker of 3, so a total of 5. If you pay 5 for it, it enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it, so it is a 5/5 for 5. And whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, if it's in your graveyard, you can put it on top of your library. So it's a nice little card that keeps coming back. Again, I think it's a little
imagine
slow.
If it went to your hand. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
When it goes on top of your library, it's kind of a bummer.
Right.
However, maybe it does get played. I think it's not awful.
You're right. Yeah, we'll see.
Journey to Oblivion. I think limited when I see it.
For sure. Yeah. Journey to Oblivion reminds me of a card called Journey to Nowhere from back in the day, which was a fun 2-cost
Oblivion Ring.
Removal, or Oblivion Ring, right, exactly. This plays off the party mechanic. It's a version of that with a little bit of a callback that plays off party mechanics, so you can potentially have it be a 1-cost enchantment that exiles a non-land permanent until it leaves the battlefield, but at the base level it's 5 and it's reduced. I think more often than not, a lot of these party mechanic cards you're going to be casting them for like 2 less, and so you kind of have to think of this as like if you do have those 2 creatures on the battlefield, you've got an O-ring here, and O-ring is a house.
Yeah, and again, in limited, excellent card. It's going to hit anything on the battlefield, which is the point.
Absolutely.
Minus things that have hexproof.
Here we've got a card that is kind of like Goblin Guide, except crappy. Wayward Guide Beast is a 1 red, 2 other trampling haster. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Jake, so is this bad or is this awful?
It's really, really both. It's bad and awful.
I am prepared to eat my words on this card.
Bad.
As an aggro player, I don't want this. I got so freaking pumped when I saw a 1-mana 2/2 with trample and haste. I went, oh god, it doesn't even matter what the rest of the text is. And then I read the rest of the text and went, whoop, yep, yes it does. You can't...
It punishes you for playing it early.
Right, exactly. The thing is...
And then you don't want a 2/2 with haste late. It just doesn't matter. It's just like...
You cannot attack with this on turn 1, or you're going to lose the game right then and there, pretty much.
Here's the thing. It's kind of cute if you're running a card like Teetering Peaks, because you can return the Teetering Peaks. Okay. But again, when you're... maybe if you play this in a modern deck alongside Goblin Guide and a bunch of other cards, and the point is to have a maximum converted of two. Yeah, and then that way you're able to crap out your Goblin Guides and all of your other Frenzied Goblins, your Foundry Street Denizens, and then you can have this come in, bounce Teetering Peaks, play Teetering Peaks again to buff something. Maybe it has an application that I'm not seeing, but in standard, I think it's going to be way too punishing having to return that mana to your hand.
It's got to play with something like Cat Cauldron does, where those two cards go hand in hand, even though they're separate cards. So it's got to have something that we haven't seen yet, or we haven't realized yet, because off the rip, initial analysis of this card is, this is horrible, it's going to put you behind, and you're going to lose the game.
Yeah, I mean, they are incentivized to not block it, so it is kind of, I don't know. Yeah. I think it's bad.
Nahiri's Lithiforming. Red, X, sack X lands. For each land sacked this way, draw a card. You can play X additional lands this turn, and lands you control enter the battlefield tapped this turn. So this is an interesting card to me. It, off the rip for me, doesn't seem like a card that I would ever want to play. However, it really helps you with flooding. You can turn lands into drawn cards for, 2 red mana plus X.
And then you can play those lands to get the lands back, or get back, half of what you sacrificed in theory.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that this is really good for limited application. Again, like Joel was just talking about, if we're in a 2-headed giant, Joel's flooding out, cast this, sacrifice, half of your lands, you're going to draw some, but it could get you back in the game. Do I think it's going to see any kind of constructed play? Not so much. It might have some EDH application because you have a lot of stuff like Crucible of Worlds and ways to get lands back, and so in a land destruction kind of situation, I don't know.
If it was maybe one more red mana, so triple red X, and it did that amount of damage to a target, then maybe I could see it in a super ramp deck, up to that. I don't know. We've got drawn a Silencer here, which is a 6-cost 3/2, enters the battlefield. Target creature an opponent controls get XX, where X is the number of creatures in your party. Another party mechanic, common.
Limited.
Yeah, not too much to talk about there. Dauntless Unity is a 2-cost, kicker 2, so total 4. If you pay 2, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn, and if you pay 4, you get +2/+1 on those creatures. I think that this is actually a decent common.
It's really good. Actually, I like being able to buff
3.
The team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, buffing the team for 2 is good. I like that.
It's a good mana cost for this type of effect. It's normally more expensive to accomplish this kind of effect with a single card, and the fact that it gets even better as the game goes along is why Kicker is good. Field Research is 3 costs to draw 2 cards, and if it was kicked, you draw 3 cards. So 6 costs sorcery to draw 3, or just Divination to draw 2, sorcery speed. I mean, it's like a Divination with a little bit of upside. Not terrible.
Yeah, it's okay. I would play it in limited and nothing else.
Right. Next up, we got Teeterpeak Ambusher, which is a 1/3 for 2. Goblin Warrior for 3. It becomes a 3/3. Fine. Limited card. Not going to see.
Dude, that card actually, in limited, amazing.
Because you can mana dump.
Oh, yeah. You can mana dump into it, and that 3 toughness, dude. That's honestly a big deal for... a red card for 2 mana. It has 3 toughness with a lot of upside. Late game, you can make this really, really nasty to deal with.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. We've talked about Turn Timber Symbiosis, Thieving Skydiver. Still think this is going to be a house. Morag, think it's going to be awesome. We've talked about Seagate Restoration.
I like that Showcase Morag. That's cool to see.
Oh, yeah. That art is dope, right? Very, very cool. Shatterskull Smashing and Hagra Mauling. We've seen all of these cards. Here's a new one today. Canyon Gerbilla. Yerboa, not sure how we pronounce that, but 1 white, 2 other for a 1/2 mouse that is incredibly cute to look at. And whenever a land enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn.
Look how cute that mouse is, dude.
Yeah, nice little battle cry ability here on a landfall trigger, so that the thing, so that your line can start really rolling. You could even play this on turn 4 before you make your land drop to have your creatures that you played 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, bro! You could do some really nasty stuff with this. With fetch lands.
Right. Yeah.
It's pretty strong. And in standard, being able to keep the Fabled Passage up, use it at instant speed in response to blocks or in response to damage. Yeah, I think this card could see some play.
Yeah. Plus, it's very, very cute.
Landfall is a big deal.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It stands to be seen how big of a deal it is, but I think that effects like this that grow your line, especially in white, are going to be very good. We've got Forsaken Monument up. Jake, I think that this card is going to be played in EDH to a huge degree. 5 cost colorless creatures you control get +2/+2. Whenever you tap a permanent for colorless, add an additional colorless, and whenever you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life. So it partners with Ancient Tomb really, really well, because you're going to get more mana and it negates the 2 life loss. It's cool to see a little shout out to Eldrazi and the whole colorless thing in a set that's
I'm mainly just excited to see. Yeah, I'm excited to see where this art landed, because I saw this art promotionally when it was originally spoiled, when Zendikar Rising started getting spoiled, and it's cool that this is the card that it landed on. I like the versatility on this card. I like that it's firing on 3 different cylinders. I care the least about the gain 2 life.
Sure.
However, I do think it's really cool. And I think in decks like Mono Blue that really value artifact creatures, this could be really, really strong. There's lots of mana rocks in mono-colored decks as well that are going to pair nicely with this.
Yeah.
I definitely think it will have some EDH application. However, it is a little bit expensive, so formats like cEDH, I can't imagine are going to want it very much, but It is still a really cool card.
It's possibly as a one-of in sideboards and Karn the Great Creator decks in historic and older formats. It might be something you want to search up in that if you're really leaning hard into the colorless thing. A lot of application I see with that card, Karn, is in a mono green deck or mono blue deck, stuff like that can search up the little utility artifacts. But Forsaken Monument, very cool. Eldrazi shout out.
Also, it is an enabler for infinite combos, like anything like with Basalt Monolith or anything like that.
Yep.
That little extra bit of mana can't be overlooked. It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that's very true. Akiri, Fearless Voyager is a new legendary creature we were introduced today. 1 white, 1 red, 1 other. Core Warrior, 3/3. Whenever you attack a player with 1 or more equipped creatures, draw a card, which is excellent. I think I've said it in multiple EDH videos. If you tack on draw a card to pretty much any commander, they're going to get that much better automatically. 1 white, you may unattach an equipment from a creature you control, and if you do, tap that creature and it gains indestructible until end of turn. So you can save your attacking creatures from some sort of destruction effects.
Yeah, I think this is super strong. I like the mana cost for the power of the card.
Yep.
Draw a card, man. Can't overstate that. I love being able to draw cards. It's resources. Being able to stay ahead of your opponent, that's something that we always talk about. I feel like when I say it, it's like, I've said this so many times, do I need to continue saying it? And I think I do. It's just being able to draw cards, being able to answer what your opponents do, and put more resources on the board when your opponents answer what you're doing. That's what's going to win you the game.
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually good enough for the CMC that it could potentially see some standard play depending on where the aggro deck actually falls out. But I know that we have seen some good 1 mana creatures, 2 mana creatures, and some equipment that are relevant now in my mind and constructed because they automatically attach when they enter the battlefield. And so for 1 mana, saving your creature that is equipped from some destruction spell seems really good to me. Plus, all you have to do is play Akiri and have an equipped creature already on the battlefield. play Akiri pre-combat, swing, and you're drawing cards right off the rip. It doesn't matter if Akiri is attacking or not. It is attack a player with one or more equipped creatures.
Yeah,
period.
That draw off the attack is just so strong. And yes, like Joel said, being able to play it and then swing with whatever your biggest creature is if it's equipped, and then just knowing that they could block it with everything, and if you have one white up, let's give it indestructible.
Yep, absolutely. We've
really
got a common sorcery here, Regrown Woodland. Search your library for a basic land card, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. If it was kicked for 4, search your library for 2 basic land cards instead of 1. Solid card. Cards like this always find some play somewhere. It's not necessarily a strictly better of Circuitous Route or anything like that, because it only does find basic lands, but not to be overlooked. Any ramp that lets you go and fix your color automatically is going to find some play, especially in limited.
For 1 is good. I mean, it's thinning out your library for 1 mana.
Absolutely.
I don't hate it.
We're going to skip this one real fast and come to it over here. Molten Blast is 1 red, 2 other, instant speed, 2 damage to target creature, planeswalker, destroy target artifact. So it's like a braid plus 1 mana. And it can hit planeswalkers for 1 less damage. I don't know. It's like a strictly worse Abrade in this set.
Yeah, it's like a really, 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 really bad shock with destroy target artifact tacked onto it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about a really cool card, and that is Lithoform Engine. All right, Lithoform Engine is a 4-cost legendary artifact. Pay 2. Copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You can choose new targets. Pay 3. Copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You can choose new targets. Pay 4. Copy target permanent spell you control. Jake, this card is already being bought out. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's pretty bonkers. EDH players, casual, and I don't know about cEDH. If you do play it, leave it in the comments. Let us know what you think about this. I know that 4 mana is kind of expensive, but in EDH application, there are so many players that are going to want this card.
I mean, it copies permanent spells that are on the stack,
yeah,
and the permanent enters as a token copy. It is too versatile not to find a home in a lot of different decks. I'm not saying that this is, a Soul Ring and every single deck is going to want this, but I don't think that there's going to be a ton of decks that including this in the library makes it any worse or makes your deck any less synergistic. It seems like it's going to synergize with pretty much anything. Activated, triggered abilities, instants, and sorceries. You control. It is you control across all of this. It's not, you can't copy your opponent's stuff, but you're doubling everything, anything and everything that you do. That seems really strong.
All of those cards that are just kind of like meh, late game, like late game, you pull the Path to Exile, right? And you're able to get rid of one thing. Well, now, for 4 mana, you're getting rid of 2 things.
Right.
It just seems good to me. You're just getting double the pleasure, double the fun.
Yeah, 7
for
mana.
The rest of the match.
7 mana, Return to Dust. You've got 4 artifacts or enchantments you're exiling if you're playing it on your main phase.
Yeah, man.
And that's that. We're only exploring the middle part here with staple spells, copying permanents. Obviously, the permanent side here, it was pointed out on our Discord today, and I thought it was a good point, is that it does not get around the legendary rule, so you're not able to copy your commander. Without the Halls card that says the legendary rule doesn't apply. So, that kind of combos well with it. But the card itself seems like, at least on the surface, this is going to be an EDH staple. Much like Helm of the Host, which is a little expensive, so it doesn't go into every deck, but it can pretty much go into any deck.
It's very niche.
Right.
Yeah. But it is. Like, this is just, triple threat. Like, there's a lot of different players that are going to want this card.
This seems like the kind of mythic that if you can get this card for like $5 to $10 in the next couple of weeks as this set releases and gets mass opened because people are chasing expeditions, I would say pick it up. Because this seems like the kind of mythic that a year from now it's going to be $20, $25 and people are going to be going, Lithoform Engine reprint would be nice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just like, how much do people love Isochron Scepter? And I know Isochron Scepter is very different. The card is staying on there until that card is removed. But again, in like that same kind of appeal, that reverberation, that twin cast kind of feeling that you getting double the value.
Right.
Just like we were talking about with drawing cards. It's how do I get the most value out of, my 100 card deck, out of the 99 in my EDH deck?
Yeah.
What can I do to make sure that I have more resources than my opponents? And by doubling your spells, doubling your permanents, I mean, it's a good way to do it. It's why spells like Anointed Procession and Doubling Season have gone up so much over the years. It's just a very popular effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Skyclave Relic is up next. This looks like a strictly better... Is it Darksteel Ingot? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Pay 3, indestructible, enters the battlefield if you kicked it for 6 total. Create 2 tap tokens that are copies of Skyclave Relic. So off the rip, you've just got a 3-cost indestructible, add 1 mana of any color. But for 6 mana, you get 3 indestructible total, add 1 mana of any color artifacts. This is, I mean, it's just a strictly better. It replaces that card, right? Or adds to it, I guess.
Again, a fun EDH card.
For sure.
I really do like to emphasize the EDH cards because that's the format that people really like the most.
Absolutely.
I think that's the format that people are talking about all the time. This seems like a fantastic card to play right before you cast something really fun and interactive like Armageddon.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, like,
really fun.
I think it's an excellent card, and I think I think it's fun.
Maddening Cacophony is up next. 1 blue, 1 other for a sorcery. Each opponent mills 8 cards, and then if you pay 6 total with the kicker, instead each opponent mills half their library, rounded up. Jake, you are the mill player. You are the mill player. Let me hear about this card.
I've tried to make it work, and I tell you, it's going to immediately replace Breaking and Entering, which is a card you never use the other side of it. You always use Breaking, which is target opponent mills 8. So now we have a card that's strictly better because we don't care about Entering when we're playing a mill deck. We're just trying to mill our opponent's cards. So now we have Breaking on this card. However, it has a card that you really don't want to build into Constricted Mill, in my opinion, and a lot of people who've tried to make mill work agree, which is the Traumatize.
Yeah.
Traumatize is just too expensive. However, having an optional Traumatize built into Breaking is kind of a big deal. Being able to mill 8, it's not Glimpse the Unthinkable, which is milling 10, but it's just close enough. And then some people, I'm sure, are going to want to run this alongside with Breaking as well. So now we have 8 spells that are able to scratch that mill 8 itch. I don't know. I think I'm going to try it out. I see no problem in trying out Modern Mill. Modern Mill is one of my favorite decks to play. I'm excited about the card. Maybe it will make waves. That's how I always feel about the new mill card. I'm like, maybe it can do it.
Maybe now's the time. Maybe this is the one.
However, it is each opponent, which is a pretty big deal because a lot of those mill cards are target opponent. This says each. So from that perspective, I really do like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I always get excited when I see a mill card that I think actually has some viability because I know you're going to be excited and we're going to get to talk about it. Next up, we've got Inscription of Insight, and man, is this a card that I'm glad is not an instant. 1 blue, 3 other for a sorcery. Choose 1, and if it was kicked for a total of 8 mana, you can choose any number. Return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands. Scry 2, then draw 2. Target player creates an XX, where X is the number of cards in their hand. This, as an instant, would be bonkers. But as a sorcery, it does get a little power down. However, I still think it's really strong. I think that, the inscriptions that we've seen since the green one, which was kind of disappointing, have been much better. And I think that this card is pretty solid. It's probably a little slow, not quite impactful enough for standard, but I mean, it's obviously a house in limited.
Oh yeah, definitely in limited. If you could get to that 8 mana, which oftentimes you do.
Yeah.
Like once you're at the top deck mode and you're just like, all right, let's try to get there. I mean, this is just like, and we're back in the game.
Right.
It's just like a star fell on you in Mario Kart and you're just like going crazy with this card. It's like, yeah, it's really, really, really good.
I just think
I like being able to return 2. Like that's a huge tempo play. Scry 2, draw 2. You're scrying before you're even drawing. That's great. And then you're also creating a threat. So yeah, I'm into it.
I think that the blue mages that play standard won't want this specifically because it is a sorcery and not an instant. I mean, if you have 8 untapped, which a blue-white controlled deck often does, you can do this at their EOT, and it's a huge play. But doing this on your turn and tapping 8 of your mana, maybe you've got 2 mana left so that you can have a counterspell of some sort ready to go. It just seems like it's gonna lock up their mana at a point in their tempo when they don't want to lock up their mana, you know. Nahiri's Binding is a 3-cost aura that enchants a creature or a planeswalker, and it's a pacifism that doesn't allow activated abilities either. I think this is a pretty good card.
3 mana is very, very strong.
Oh yeah.
Can't attack, can't block, activated abilities can't be activated.
Right. All-star removal and limited, obviously. Actually might have some playability.
Constructed removal. Yeah.
Right.
I think so. I do. If you're running white, it's a little mana intensive toward white. So, having to use the 2 white, you're probably not in like a 3-color deck with this. However, maybe people are going to figure it out. But yeah, this is really strong. Creature and planeswalker versatility.
Oh yeah.
On a pacifism. Yeah, that's a big, big deal.
Prison Realm has seen play. And if I'm not mistaken, that card is rotating. I've got to see to be specific about that. But, this might be the kind of card that replaces it, even though it doesn't exile, which is what I think the preferred thing is for a card like this. Not having its activated abilities readily available, I think, is what would put this one over the top if it does get used.
I do wish it, were an Oblivion Ring.
Sure.
That's strictly better. That's what we want. But if we're not going to get Oblivion Ring, this isn't awful in Standard, so...
Common 6/5 for 6 with trample that enters a battlefield and returns up to 2 lands you control to their owner's hand. I like it says up to 2, so you do get a 6-power, 6-cost trampling creature. This is great for limited. And then you can re-trigger some landfall stuff if you want, but you're not forced to go back down to 4 mana, which I think can be very beneficial.
Good limited card.
Undo Inversion is pretty huge. This is our white bolt land. No, I'm wrong about that. This is not our white bolt land. Look at this. Actually, the effect was so powerful I didn't notice that it's only a rare. 6 cost, 8 mana total for 2 white plus 6. Destroy all non-land permanents, and it's a land on the other side. I think that control decks might actually want a single copy of this because it's a land early when they're playing untapped.
2 of. Yeah,
when they're playing
I think it's a 2 of.
Anyway. Yeah, but 8 mana is pretty intense to destroy all non-land permanents. It's a pretty intense CMC for any card, but it does have a huge effect.
It does have a huge effect, and it's the kind of effect that would never, ever in a million years be played in a constructed deck. But maybe, just maybe, because of that land on the other side of it, this will be something that people experiment with.
Right.
Because, yeah, it's like Planar Cleansing. I don't want to play that, and that's a 6-cost spell. So there's no way that I'm going to play an 8-cost spell. But if it's the kind of thing that I draw late game
right,
as a top deck, it's an excellent top deck.
Yeah.
So if you have the mana for it, it's a great card. But being able to play it as a land that's a big deal.
Yeah, it really is.
The fact that the land comes in tapped, it might make Amulet of Vigor a big card moving forward, but I don't know, dude. It's I like it.
We'll see. Squad Commander is a 1 white 3 other core warrior for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 core warrior token for each creature in your party, so up to 4 1/1s come with this. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible until end of turn. This is the kind of top end for a constructed party deck that it would need, that is a good payoff, that is a good ability to achieve from having a full party. It plays with party how I think it would play, which is kind of an aggro build because you're playing creatures on 1, 2, 3. You want to hit a cleric, a rogue, and a wizard on 1, 2, and 3, and then play your core warrior to fill out your party at the beginning of combat. Even on the turn that this was played, this thing doesn't have to be attacking. All your creatures are getting +1/+0 and indestructible. I think if a deck like this works, it will run a card like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great top end for the deck if that strategy is going to work. Those strategies always feel so fragile to me, but if you think you can make party work, we want to hear about it. Put it in the comments. I think it's something that's fun and flavorful. I think it's going to get a lot more support when we get to the new D&D themed set Zendikar that comes out in early 2021, I believe is when that's going to happen.
In general,
but yeah, I'm interested.
In general, creatures are Jake's least favorite card type in the entire game. He likes playing removal. He doesn't like playing creatures. And so whenever there's a creature spoiled, he's like, meh, dies to removal, and we have to move on from
Not
it.
always, but sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. I just think that, you know what, I shouldn't say that because I do play Modern Goblins, and that's a creature-based deck. And all of those goblins by themselves are kind of lackluster. But when you crap them out as early as, turn 3, you have an empty hand that's just filled with a bunch of goblins that are swinging in from all different fronts.
Yeah.
Maybe the party thing can work. Maybe I'm not giving it enough credit.
We'll see.
We do see a lot of creatures in this new set with dual types, where it's like checking 2 of the boxes. It's like Cleric Warrior, or it's like whatever Warrior, or whatever Cleric. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Wizard Warrior.
Right.
We've seen it. We've seen a lot of different options, so we'll see how it goes. Let's talk about Scoot Swarm. This is the only card that I'm going to say the text of in this entire video. 1 green, 2 other for 1/1. Landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. If you control 6 or more lands, create a token that's a copy of Scoot Swarm instead. So, definitely a throwback to Scoot Mob.
Yeah. Actually, the first flavor text on Scoot Mob was Survival Rule 781. There are always more Scoot bugs. And the flavor text on this one is Survival Rule 782. There are always more Scoot bugs. So kind of a cute little throwback there, joke in the flavor text. Scoot Swarm, I like how at 3 mana, it will let you create more creatures as you go crazy. This is obviously a card that your opponent is going to want to answer quickly. It's not difficult to do that. It is a 1/1 with 0 evasion, no protection, nothing. But it is a card that if unanswered will get out of hand very quickly. You're playing this on 3. On turn 4, you're creating a 1/1. 5, and then on 6 you're creating Scoot Swarm copies, and then every time you play a land you're gonna effectively double, triple, you're just gonna grow exponentially how many Scoot Swarms you have.
Doubling a penny a day.
Right. They all stay as 1/1s, which I think I wish that they would get bigger. Like
Dies to Pyroclasm.
Right, yeah. Sure, exactly. But I do think it is cool to see a little bit of a throwback card to the original Zendikar set.
And remember, we just got Heroic Intervention in Core 2020 or Core 2021.
Sure.
So if you are playing green and you're not playing Heroic Intervention, I imagine you were doing it wrong. I don't know. We'll see.
Probably as a sideboard card at the very least. We've got a large elephant creature here. 3 costs, 3/3. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And it is a land on the other side. This is one of the first ones that I'm like, I think this is probably going to see some play in Constructed. Being a 5/5 when it swings on turn 4, ready to go on turn 4, ready to swing. That seems very viable to me. We've seen a ton of play. And again,
Fabled Passage sack.
Right.
I mean, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen a ton of play with the Beauty and the Beast analog card. I can't think of the name of it right now. But a 5/5 for 3 mana, even in decks that aren't necessarily creature-based, it has been a card that even comes out of the sideboard. Just because even if you can't attack with it, having a 5/5 on your side of the board as a big blocker as early as turn 3 is very good against certain strategies and certain matchups on the other side of the field. And so this feels like the kind of card for me. It's already a good return. I wish that it got +2/+2 in Trample, just because, I feel like that's been my entire spoiler season for every single set, is I'm like, I wish this card had this extra ability, but I do think that this is right. I actually absolutely have.
You've been spoiled by too many keywords.
Right. But I do think that this one has got some potential, simply because, it's going to be 5/5 and it can get multi-triggered if you've got some kind of Oracle Moldiah type effect ready to go where you can play extra lands even if it's just for a turn. You got a little extra, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here we've got a what they're calling Raspberry Jaguar. I think that's a fun name. 1 green, 2 other for a trampling 2/1. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So it stays growing larger and it has trample. I'm very, very confused as to why the mammoth here, elephant, does not have trample anywhere on the card, but our jaguar has trample on the card and not like burst strike or something. But, whatever. The card is very good at common.
No, you know what, Joel? You're exactly right. The mammoth should have had trample. The jaguar should have had first strike. The jaguar can still grow and just have first strike. It doesn't need trample. doesn't make sense that it has trample. I mean, would it trample over me specifically? Yes. Would it trample over you? Yes.
Absolutely.
It would eat us like a breakfast burrito, dude. We would be dead. Raspberry Jaguar would be the last thing that we ever saw. But you're absolutely right. The mammoth needs to have trample. It's sound logic.
Yeah.
The mammoth not having trample doesn't make sense. It negates what the mammoth is. Is this a glass mammoth? Is it the kind of mammoth where if you bump into it, it's going to shatter?
It's made of weeds and grass. It's a land-based mammoth. Yeah, I don't know. Let's look at our other dual-face card that we've got here. It's an instant speed, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, and on the back, it is a land that enters the battlefield tapped. Pretty cool. It's just another modal dual-face card. I think I've said it in every video. I've got to get my hands on these. I've got to get some play in with these to tell you how they feel mechanically and what's my take on, should you be stuffing these into your deck in place of land slots just because they can be a land if you need a land. I definitely think
the bolt lands are going to see some play. I really do. It's up to be decided whether or not these ones that enter tapped are going to have a huge impact on constructed formats. Those first couple turns are a big, big deal. So having a land enter in tapped when it would otherwise be, I don't know, like a Thoughtseize.
Sure.
Or some sort of epic turn 1, some like a Danto Vanguard kind of thing. Wait, that's not even turn 1, is it?
It's turn 2, but we get what you're saying.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's what we've got for Monday, Labor Day, September 7th. Let's close the book. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Like we said at the beginning, if you liked the video, click like, click subscribe. It really helps us out. We will be there with you along the way, every step of the way, along the Zendikar adventure through preview season.
The way, every step of the way, along the Zendikar adventure way. We're going to show you the way. And look out for our new series, Way, where we asked you. That's a good segue that we didn't plan, right?
Yeah, that was a pretty good plug for our other stuff.
I'm looking over to you on the screen. I'm like, what do you think, Joel?
Oh, you always do that. He never looks at the camera. He always looks at me on the screen. He looks off camera because that's what y'all see. Here's another plug, and it's our Patreon. The link is down in the description below if you want to support us further. We got monthly giveaways, lots of behind the scenes stuff. Jake is really throwing off our entire vibe here, and it's kind of freaking me out. Go check out our Patreon and see if you want to join. And I've got a really big left shoulder. See if you want to support us further and join our Discord. Lots of cool stuff over there. Other than that, I'm tapped out, and I think we'll see you tomorrow. Jake, you got anything else?
Until next time, we'll see you later, Warehouse. We'll see you on the flippity.